Hey, I'm Casual Jake.
And I'm Connor, aka Taito.
And welcome to the MTG Educators Network podcast. Today, we are going to be continuing our Teacher's Pet Deck series where we highlight a pet deck of ours.
Yeah, I really liked when we started this series. I brought out my Kethis deck, which I actually went and upgraded like a couple days later because I love talking about it so much.
Very sweet.
But unfortunately, or fortunately, depending on how you look at it, today we are going to be looking at one of your decks, Jake, and this is going to be one of your most treasured decks. So what did you bring to show the class today?
Yeah, so as a choir director, I think people assume, and I hope so, that there's a certain level of creativity that I possess. And I love to use this with my deck brewing, and I really love to seek out either uncommon or undersupported mechanics and try to make them work, right? So yeah, I had a friend who sent me this package, and it was just full of a bunch of MTG cards. And I opened it, and there were some random staples and whatnot, but there was also this Judge foil, Riku of Two Reflections, and I just knew that I had to brew around it. So Riku is 2 generic mana, green, blue, and red. It's a legendary human wizard, and it's a 2/2, and it reads as follows. Whenever you cast an instant or sorcery spell, you may pay blue and red, and if you do, you can copy that spell and choose new targets for the copy. Then whenever another non-token creature enters the battlefield under your control, you may play green and blue. And if you do, create a token that's a copy of that creature. So again, my initial reaction is thinking, let's copy some spells. That's awesome. Spell Slinger, Teamer, Ramp Out, big spells. I love it. I start going through my chaff and I'm start noticing that I have this, I guess I hit an Eldraine pocket or something. Because I keep looking at all these different adventures and then it kind of just, snaps and hits me. Oh, wait, I can copy the adventure and the creature, so I can kind of get my double value from this. And so I knew pretty much from that point that this was going to be a Riku Adventures deck.
Yeah, Riku's actually a commander that I've probably looked at building like on 5 or 6 different occasions. And I definitely was going to go along that same way that you did with the Spell Slingers, expansion explosion, big spells, big X spells, just get as much mana as possible in a Teamer ramp deck. But then I remember one of the first things you actually told me when we started talking about this podcast and coming together was you told me about this deck. And adventures are a really cool mechanic. And I've thought about this when they started doing those the mini commander decks in the sets. I really wanted to see them serve. I wish they had done them in Eldraine because I would have loved to see them serve adventures as a commander deck and maybe get a little bit more support for that.
For sure.
Because I think adventures are super, super cool. I think those cards are awesome. The way that you can cast them, the way that you can play them, the thematics of it. I really like that.
Right. And it just brings so much versatility to the cards.
Yeah.
And if you look at the adventure cards, a lot of them curve out really well. For instance, what's his name? Bone Crusher Giant. For 2 mana, you get a shock. But then for 3 mana, you get a body. They curve right into each other. So you don't feel like you're wasting the card and then have to cast it a lot later. A lot of them have that kind of, like I said, a nice little curve to them.
Yeah, right. Like Brazen Borrower, I think is 2 mana to bounce something.
Bounce target non-land permanent an opponent controls to its owner hand. And sometimes I've actually tried to bounce my own thing and I forget it's an opponent stuff. But so it's an opponent stuff. And then for 3, you can flash it out.
Yeah, exactly. So the cards are really, really cool. And this deck obviously sounds really fun when you can play multiple copies of an adventure and multiple copies of the creature. So why don't you take us through the deck a little bit more thoroughly and we can hear some of the cards that are really, really good.
Sure. So this is, again, our lesson plan segment where we get to kind of break down the different strategies that we have here. So in this deck, I have 15 cards that utilize the adventure mechanic. I pretty much got all the red, blue, and green ones that I could fit in there that at least serve some purpose. Now, there are some adventure cards that are probably better in draft. So I skipped over a few of those, but there are cards, you'll see the classics. You're going to see Love Struck Beast. You are going to see Brazen Borrower.
Right.
I even included things like Emperor's Shieldbreaker because you get to destroy an artifact for 1 red, and then, it's a 2/1 body. It's not that great, but it does serve the purpose, and it does have utility to it. And plus, like I said, when you're double casting them, you kind of get that double value. What this deck really revolves around, and it may seem really narrow, and I guess it kind of is, but it's just so much fun, is getting value off of those adventures with cards like Edgewall Innkeeper and Lucky Clover. Again, Clover being so powerful, it had to get banned in Standard. What you're looking for in a general Riku outing is you're looking for some Edgewall Innkeeper action or a Lucky Clover to make sure that you're getting the full advantage of these adventures. Which brings me to my next part, which is that we run a lot of tutors for Clover. So I'm running like Tribute Mage, Fabricate, Muddle the Mixture to make sure that I get a Clover out. Because again, what's better than a copy but an extra copy? If we have Riku out and play an adventure card, the sorcery or the instant, let's say, for the cost of that plus the 2 mana, we'll get 3 copies of it because Clover will get it instantly. Riku makes a copy and it gets a regular one. And so, like, let's say Beanstalk Giant, which is the Fertile Footsteps. The adventure is 2 and a green. You get to search your library for a basic land card, put it onto the battlefield. Pretty good ramp by itself.
Rampant growth. I play that card in Ayasha, the mono green commander deck, that because it's like a forest tribal deck. And that card has like the Blanchwood armor text, like its power and toughness are equal to the number of forests you have. So that card's really good. But yeah, Lucky Clover, I remember specifically, I think I wasn't playing Standard at the time that Throne came out. So I was really focused on like really cool arts and the fact that we had this like new card frame and everything like that. And Lucky Clover completely flew under my radar. And then I saw someone play the deck and I go, wait. It's just a 2 mana artifact that says that spells that you cast go twice. Like, are you serious?
You just get another one.
And then Edgewall Innkeeper, the same thing. Like I saw, it's like you draw a card, and I was like, "All right, what? This is bonkers." It's what 2 uncommons in the set, right? Yeah. Like it's crazy how strong those cards can be. And if we ever see another Eldraine set or a set that has the adventure mechanic, this card is going to skyrocket in power.
Yeah, for sure. And the only regret I have about this being a Temur deck is that there's one other real adventure payoff, and it's Selesnya. Like it's a horse, it's a mare, and it gets like +1/+1 when you cast an adventure or something like that. And I really wish it could be in here so I could have like another adventure payoff, but we just don't have the colors for it. So I don't know. I've heard people play adventures with King Kenrith doing that, but like I said, this was just my little take, and I've found to really love this way. Mostly, I guess part of it, like you said, is this was a standard deck. Temur Adventures was just a standard deck. You were getting those Beanstalk Giants out real quick, using the Bone Crushers and the Brazen Borrowers. So it's almost like a mini standard deck booted into Commander, which is always kind of fun when you see some of those lines. Which brings me to my next section, which is pretty much just other Eldraine value. Eldraine, if you look at it in the constructed format, a lot of people are considering it very powerful and very almost broken. So many cards having to be banned from it in Standard because of the power level. And we're still seeing those cards played right now. Things like Questing Beast, Robber of the Rich, Embercleave, and then, of course, the banned Oko are all cards that have a home in this deck.
Yeah, I think Eldraine has been talked about as one of the most impactful sets in a lot of formats, like on the same levels as like original Innistrad, original Zendikar, like just absolutely powerhouses, like slobber knocker good cards. Oko was obviously really good. And it's I want to go back in time and find someone and say, okay, here's this card, and just slide them Questing Beast, right? And they go, oh my God, this has to be like the best power, like most powerful card in Standard, best card in the set. And then I go, okay. Then I slide them Embercleave, and they go, oh my God, this card's even better. And then I slide them Oko. Like, you know what I mean? Like Embercleave is a card that has dominated Standard from what I understand. It's been around in Standard for ever since it was printed. And that it's a really good card. And a lot of the focus was taken off cards like Embercleave and Questing Beast because of the other strong cards in the format, like Oko. Like Oko was honestly, Oko was game defining. He was seeing play in every single format. And
subsequently getting banned in a bunch of those formats. I think by the time we're recording this episode today, they announced that he was getting banned in Legacy.
Yes, I believe that is true. So I believe he is now only legal to be played in Commander. Same with another powerhouse, not from Eldraine, but you could put it in the set, which is Uro. Both of those Simic cards now banned in almost every single format they can be played in. So there's a lot of really good cards that came out of Eldraine, but of course, Commander deck takes 99 cards. So you can't only have cards from Eldraine. That just wouldn't be a very good deck. So what other cards do we have in this deck that maybe aren't from our Fairy Tale set?
Well, foolish you. You're right. This isn't a very good deck. But I do. No, it definitely holds its own. And I do include cards from other sets. So again, Eldraine's super powerful, but I just found that, especially with the adventure mechanic, it doesn't really scale, right? I'm getting a little bit of advantage, but it's not like I'm getting an advantage per opponent, right?
Right.
Against one opponent, getting double the thing is great. Getting triple the thing is okay, and all that. But in a commander game, sometimes when I'm casting, again, let's give an example of like Flex an Intruder. Super great, and I can sacrifice it to do the thing. But does that, how does that scale in a 4-player game? So the first thing I thought about was, well, this is a pretty mana hungry deck, because I
Yes.
need the extra mana to do the copies. So of course I'm running talismans, I'm running the signets, stuff like that, colorless ramp, soul ring, and whatnot. As well as of course land spells. I'm getting cultivate, I'm getting farseek, I'm getting rampant growth, because I want to make sure that I have the colors that I need to copy the spells that I need. Again, needing simic mana to cast the creature, to double cast the creature, and the Izzet mana for the instants or sorceries. The other, I kind of needed, again, Eldraine wasn't going to get me all the way, so I built in a bit of a combo-y potential win condition thing in there. The big one, of course, being Peregrine Drake, right?
Yep.
Known for its numerous combos. There's going to be the Peregrine Drake Deadeye Navigator combo. Make a bunch of mana. You can expansion explosion and copy that if you need to, and do some fun stuff with that. Also, the one I probably prefer the most, and the one I try to go for the most, even if I lose, this is the one I go for, is Peregrine Drake, Riku, and Temur Sabertooth. And the way it works is you have Riku and Temur Sabertooth out. Cast your Peregrine Drake, it enters the battlefield, you untap 5 lands, and then you copy it with Riku, and you get to, spend 2 of that mana, and then untap another 5 lands. So you're netting, an extra 3 mana on that. Use 2 mana for Temur Sabertooth. I think it's 1 and a green. You get to bounce the Peregrine Drake back,
Yep.
and then you just keep doing it again, netting you infinite mana. And then from there, what I like to do is get one of my adventure cards, and I keep bouncing it back with the Temur Sabertooth. So I've actually stomped my opponents to death before.
Oh, that's awesome.
It's been super awesome, because I'll play the stomp, cast the creature, bounce it, and then just keep doing it over and over again and present my loop. And it's a lot of fun to do that.
That's awesome. Yeah, I do. I never thought I would like combos. And then I made an Elsha of the Infinite deck, and all it takes is doing some Aetherflux Reservoir, Kaikar.
Nonsense.
Yeah, it was Kaikar. The most common was Kaikar, Aetherflux Reservoir, and Top, because you don't net mana, but you get infinite storm count. Because you make a spirit for playing the top, sack the spirit to get a mana, tap the top to put it on top of your deck, and then you play the top again with Elsha, and then you get infinite storm count with Aetherflux,
right?
And you can just Death Star laser the table down.
Right.
So I don't think I would ever like to build a commander deck that is all about combo, but having the combo that you can like not stumble upon, but kind of stumble upon in your games. I do enjoy doing that a lot. I like building synergistic engines, so like that's why I, like in my decks I have like this with like Kakusho and stuff like that. But having that like one little combo that if you really need to can win the game is really, really fun. So I think, like you said, it's good to have that combo potential in here with like Peregrine Drake and Riku's Temur Sabertooth, and they're good cards outside of the combo as well.
Correct. I mean, Temur Sabertooth, again, even if we're not netting infinite mana, it allows us to bounce some of those creatures back that have the adventures and then recast the adventures. So, Brazen Borrower, again, could be one where we're playing Brazen, I think it's Petty Theft, 1 and a blue to bounce the non-land permanent. You Petty Theft, you go ahead and you play the creature, then on your next turn, you bounce it back and do it again. You can kind of get that repeatable recursion. It's almost like, it reminds me almost like you're casting stuff from your graveyard, but you're not. It's even safer because, it goes into the adventure zone where it can be interacted with. So, again, it's just a good card. Peregrine Drake, same thing. Even when you're not bouncing it, even without the Temur Sabertooth to bounce it back, Peregrine Drake Riku copy is still going to net you a lot of mana that turn. Plus you have, these decently sized flyers, and then you can do stuff from there. So just solid cards to include. And like you said, I find that I stumble upon it as a win con, rather than the first thing I do is open up a hand and say, okay, how quickly can I get to my combo from here? That's not really the point. The point is, I'm getting an advantage off my adventure spells, enjoying the game, getting to see these cool Eldraine cards. And then, oh, hey, Peregrine Drake just got into my hand. Maybe I can dig a little bit deeper, get the Sabertooth, and we can close up the game, by turn 10.
Yeah, exactly. I've played with people before that will play decks like, Xenagos with Tooth and Nail, Kiki Jiki, Zealous Conscripts or whatever, like, or whatever it may be, that will be some kind of infinite, not Zealous Conscripts, but you know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
They'll go for that 2-card
Kiki
combo.
and Zealous Conscripts, they go. Yeah,
that is right.
That
Right?
goes
Yeah.
infinite. Yeah, because
Yeah.
you gain control of the copy of something, and then
Yeah.
it goes
so
infinite.
This all of those infinite that win you the game on the spot. And I know people that will basically play the game and try to find that. And like, I get that, especially, if you want to win. But the thing is that this format is very much so like a social format, and it's fun, and it's just supposed to be, we'll talk about the Commander philosophy document on our on another episode that I'm not sure the order in which these are going to come out. But when we talk about Rule Zero, we'll talk about Commander philosophy, and their whole thing is at the end of a Commander game, yes, someone will have won, but everyone would have had a chance to self-express and have a good time playing the game. And that's the philosophy of Commander as a format. And I find that building to use those combos, like you can play Maren and just put in Mike and Trike and stuff like that. But like you're not really expressing yourself there, and you're not letting others express themselves. So it is really cool to have those combos that you can stumble upon, because combos are cool. They're sick. But you don't want to just, look for them.
Sure. And I'll say in the kind of games that I feel me and you both play, that's the general idea, is that combos aren't a big no or anything. They don't get you permabanned from the server. It's just, as long as you're kind of stumbling upon them. I will say, as someone who has recently built and played in some pods around CEDH, it's a super fun and valid way to play. I played a Winota Stacks deck where pretty much I was trying to get a Kiki Jiki combo, and it was super fun. Even when I died on turn 2, I had a blast because I got to see these cool decks. So it comes down to the people that you're playing with, I think, and what everyone's definition of fun is. So,
we're getting way too close to this Rule Zero episode right now.
I know, you're right. I will just say, for the people looking at this deck list and they're thinking, oh, infinite combos. I have played it with some friends, and I do always mention, hey, there is like a infinite combo in here. If that's something that you're like super against, just let me know. But I'm pretty much not gonna be tutoring for it. If it happens, it happens. And more than often, they've been okay with that. Though there have been a few people that are like, I just don't really like infinite combos at all. And I'm like, cool, I'll play something else. So, it's always something to be considered. But I do think in most, casual Commander play groups, something like this is going to be accepted and just be like, oh, okay, cool. Like, because usually, again, it happens like on turn 12 by the time a game should be ending.
Yeah, I in Kethis, I actually for a while was running Mindslaver, more because when I was going to stores.
What a jerk.
Yeah. So it was more when I was going to stores, and there were people that I didn't necessarily want to play with, but I also don't want to be that guy that just says like, hey, like, no, I actively don't want to play with you. So instead of saying I don't want to play with you, I say I'm going to play with your deck. So I just Mindslaver them, and that's what happens. So, and I don't know, some people might think that's a little petty, but like at the same time, I like having ways in my deck to deal with any situation. So like, I may not ever play Mindslaver against my normal play group, but if some guy's being a jerk in the pod at the local game shop, you bet your sweet patootie I'm going to go find that Mindslaver and I'm going to put him into a headlock. So
there you go.
That's one of the other good things about EDH is the table can correct itself. If someone's being some guy sat down and we were trying to play a game, and we were talking like, yeah, like we're trying to do this, and he said something like, he's like, oh, I'm gonna play this. He sat down with Mogus Group Slug. It wasn't even like discard or like hate. It was just, you get to do nothing. I have no way to win. The game will be slow. Yeah. And like that was not fun.
Not an enjoyable experience.
No. Yeah. So that's the kind of situations that I would want an out, and that's what that out is.
Sure, and I look at this Peregrine Drake combo-ish kind of thing as a way out of finishing the game. There's been times where I've had it early-ish in a game, and I just don't play it. Because that just wasn't the move. It wasn't okay, time to go infinite and win the game. It was, man, I've only played one adventure spell so far. Yeah, let's keep this going. Like, I want to play more adventures, and maybe I get my hand windfalled or whatever, and there goes my infinite combo. Okay, cool. Like, I'm just gonna Embercleave and put on Questing Beast and try to win. It's silly. It's about having fun, and it's really, again, because it's an adventure. I always like the idea of story. And if this, what I found is every time I play this deck, I have a really cool story. I either Oko someone's commander, and we kind of have a good laugh at that.
Yeah, that's real fun.
Right. Or we get, usually they make a deal, by the way. What you do is if I Oko your commander, I usually offer to allow you to swing into something and I'll kill the elk and you can recast it later. but it's still for the lulz, the memes. But there's always some kind of fun story, or again, you see the Embercleave and we all kind of joke about, oh my gosh, the bane of standard and all this kind of stuff. So I would like to go through kind of what a normal game with this deck kind of looks like.
You mentioned some of the times that you can see Peregrine Drake early, or some of the ways that you probably could win fairly early, but we all know that that's not going to happen every game. So what does an average game with this deck look like?
Sure. So again, very mana hungry deck. We want to get Riku themselves a 5 cost, for a 2/2. Not the best body, so you have to worry about things like protection and whatnot. Of course, you want your Lightning Greaves or Swiftfoot Boots out. Make sure that you're ready to protect him when he does come out, because after the first time he dies, he's 7 mana, and that's a pretty big investment. So the first turns you're looking at your ramp spells, your artifacts, your land ramp, stuff like that. And then really after the board is kind of settled and you're able to see what your opponents have, what you have in hand, and you kind of have enough mana to start doing things. That's where I look at the cards in my hand and I decide, okay, are we going to do, Eldraine Value Engine? Are we going to cast our adventures? Are we going to try to maybe get, 2 Beanstalk Giants that are like 12/12s onto the battlefield? Are we going to Bone Crusher a bunch of stuff? Kind of that kind of route. Or are we going to look for our combo? Again, we're in the game and it's like, okay, well, we have this Temur Sabertooth. Maybe let's get this out, start doing our adventure stuff and kind of stall out until we can finish things out, or maybe see a different line. So I look at those two. Again, my favorite ways really are just double casting the creatures. It allows us to go wide for the extra 2 mana. Getting things like the Lovestruck Beast, getting 2 of those out is always really fun. 5/5s for 3s. Stuff like that's always really good. Or looking at that combo. And so by the time we're getting to the end game, we're either so far ahead of our opponents because we have, double cast. We have double this and double that and double Edgewall Keeper, and we're just getting so much value.
Oh my god, I didn't even think of that.
Double Edgewall Keeper is
oh
sick,
my god, that's so good.
I've done it quite often. That and double Robber of the Rich. Like, a lot of these Eldraine cards, again, they just have so much value. I will say, quick aside, one of my favorite ones also is I do run about 5 copies of 7 Dwarves in there. I didn't want to run all 7, but they're cool because, 1 7 Dwarves double cast is already 2 Dwarves,
Dude, and the thing about what's that new commander? The one, the new red, I forget, the mono red dwarf one that gets treasures.
Yeah, Magda.
Dude, you just run 7 dwarves and that's optimal in that deck. Like, that's the coolest thing in the world.
Literally
that's
all 7 of
cool.
them.
That's so sick.
Yeah, it's a good time, man. So we're either just, like I said, Value Town, making sure that's going. We're trying to go infinite, and what's kind of great is there's a lot of these Eldraine cards that go infinite without you kind of realizing. So Bone Crusher was the one I gave the earlier example of. You play the Stomp, deal 2 damage to your opponent, play the creature with infinite mana, of course, bounce it back with Temur Sabertooth, and stomp your opponent to death, right?
Yeah.
You could also, what I've also done is the Merfolk that does the milling. Merfolk Secret Keeper.
Oh no! Oh,
I do run Emery. I run Emery so I can get my Lucky Clover.
I was
back
gonna say you want that destroyed. For Lucky Clover.
It's gonna definitely get destroyed. Emery brings it, helps us get it back. But Merfolk Secret Keeper is the one where you the Venture Deeper. That's the blue sorcery on it, and you mill an opponent for 3. Play the Secret Keeper, bounce it, and so I've actually milled opponents too. So you kind of have a few ways to go infinite with adventures and win that way. If that doesn't work, we lose sometimes, and that's what I've loved about this deck is it does feel like a 60 card game where there's very clear points where you're winning, and there's also very clear points where you're losing. This isn't the most optimized or tuned deck. I wouldn't put money on this deck, but it's just a lot of fun, and you're gonna have really big, explosive, splashy plays. And like you said, the table is probably going to correct itself and slap you right back down as soon as you do, but you had a good time doing it.
Yeah, so have you ever seen that meme? I think it's from like a cartoon or an anime, and it's like a guy, he looks like he's like piloting a starship, and maybe Sean can get this up, but he's like, I'm a genius, and he's like smiling big, and then the next frame is, oh no! Like, that's what I feel like you're saying here, is like sometimes you're like, oh, I'm big brain, I'm gonna get double Edgewall Keeper, and I'm gonna draw all these cards, and then you just like, you mill like a really important thing, or you go Expansion Explosion for 100,000, and they go Mana Drain, and you go and then it's not good.
Yeah, no, and those things have definitely happened, and that's kind of so you're gonna play things like Questing Beast, you're gonna play things like Embercleave that are good cards, but they don't necessarily win the game in a game of Commander when you have 3 opponents. One thing that I have noticed is though when you drop those, it draws you a lot of table hate. So that's another thing, you know what I mean? Like a questing beast, it's a great card one-on-one because it can just focus on one thing. But when you have to spread out that 4 damage, you know, across the table, like, you know, what's that? It has to hit 10 times to kill someone, right? 10 times times 3. It has to hit 30 hits to kill the table. It's probably not going to win you the game, but it's, you know, that advantage that you're going to get from that, and then double casting the Bone Crusher and double casting the stuff that eventually can lead to a win.
Yeah, exactly. And this seems like a super, super fun deck. It seems like a unique deck. I haven't had the opportunity. Actually, I don't even remember. Did you play it on Skypelander when I was on there? If
no,
you did,
I don't think we did. I've had it kind of in the back of the deck list for a while because as a lot of people do, you build a deck, you play the heck out of it, and so it got to the point where it's like, okay, I'm playing Riku every you know commander night. Maybe I should put it back for a little bit and kind of force myself to play other stuff. And so it's now one of those decks where I'm kind of got in the back of my head, and this episode came very perfectly timed to say, oh yeah, I love this deck. I want to highlight it, and I'm going to start playing it a little bit more. So I'm sure we'll get a game in with it soon.
Awesome. And we'll make sure that we get the deck list in the description on YouTube as well. So if you're on Spotify, you can definitely go check it out there. And also, this is our, you know, the signatures segment of our Teacher's Pet Deck series, which is the Reflections. Like any good educator, we've given you our lesson plan. We've told you how this deck works and what we need to do to make sure that it works. But Jake, it is now time for you to reflect on this lesson. And what are some things that you'd like to improve in the deck?
Of course. Now, we already talked a little bit, and I've kind of hinted that this isn't the most powerful deck in the world. And that's totally fine. It wasn't meant to be. Sometimes just dual casting the adventure stuff just isn't really enough to win the game. But it's just one of those things that it just feels really cool when you do it. And for me, that's where I get the satisfaction. Not when I win with Bone Crusher Giant, but when I cast 3 copies of it. You know, it's just kind of silly and fun. And so that I want to keep. You know, I want to make sure that I don't necessarily cut adventure cards or quote unquote bad adventure cards for more optimal non-adventure cards. I will say if I wanted to make this more consistent, maybe include a few more tutors for the combo and maybe even include another combo piece. I would think maybe Biovisionary and Riku has been a popular one because you play Biovisionary, you copy it with Riku, so you have 2 right there, and then you just play a clone. You know, you play a clone, and then you copy the clone, and you know you get 4 Biovisionaries, you win the game.
Is Biovisionary the one? Oh, is that which one's that one? That's the one where you
Biovisionary is the one where if you have 4 copies of it, I believe at your end step you win.
Okay. Do you play any of the cards that like oh no, because Riku's ability costs colored mana, right? So you can't use like Biomancer's Familiar or Training Grounds because that doesn't help you at all. Okay.
Yeah, reducing his active. Well, I guess it's an activated ability. That's weird. I actually don't. Yeah, because it's triggered when something happens.
Is to say
then you have to pay it
whenever. That is a triggered ability, I believe.
But then you have to pay to activate it, which is so.
Yeah, I don't know.
But I think you're right. I think it is. I don't know.
It is definitely at the very least triggered. I can tell you that because it says whenever. So
very clear on that. So again, including another combo like that where it's not just Peregrine Drake is the only combo could make this deck. I guess could improve the win rate. Also, if I would just either proxy or buy what's it called, Palinchron, which I think is like $90. So probably would proxy it. But yeah, no, it's just more expensive Peregrine Drake.
Yeah, no, it makes sense.
You know, and so it's $90. Actually, isn't it like better? Like, can it bounce itself or something like that?
It probably is.
The reason why it's so expensive is because it untaps. It's 7 mana. It untaps 7 lands, and for 4, you can actually return it to its hand by itself. So that in and of itself is the infinite combo.
It's just infinite mana in and of itself. Okay.
Right. You don't need the Temur Sabertooth then because you play Palinchron, you copy it, which again you need like 9 mana to do. You know, in the first place, so you need to make sure that you're ramping very mana hungry. But then you can just return it and then do it again and again and again and have fun like that. Especially, I didn't mention this, but the deck does run the 3, I think it's 3. Yeah, Karoo lands is what I've heard them called. They're the bounce lands, the ones that tap for, the one land that taps for like red and green. You never heard Karoo land?
No, what? What is this?
That is literally what they're called.
Oh, I'm not doubting you. I've just never heard of this.
Yeah, so those are the lands, like, you've heard of bounce lands, right?
Yeah, like, Selesny, no, let me think of, Golgari Rot Farm.
Yeah. Oh no, sorry. I don't know why I heard them as called Karoo. I guess so. There's a card called Karoo. I'm just looked this up right now, and it bounces back a land, but then it also taps for a white and 1. So I guess I was incorrect. They're not Karoo lands. I've been calling them incorrectly. They're the bounce lands. They run the bounce lands because with Peregrine Drake and things like Palinchron, you
so
start netting mana off of those.
You're untapping 5, but you're really getting like 6 or 7.
But you're getting 6, depending on how many you have. Yeah, I think
that makes sense.
Is it Boilerworks is one, Simic Growth Chamber, and then the Gruul one is Gruul Turf. Yeah, so I run all 3 of those so that I can tap and untap and get better value. So maybe even some ways to tutor those would make the deck more efficient. But really, like I said, the deck's about having fun. I like where it's at right now. I love dropping Oko and then just having the table go, oh my gosh. And it's usually dead the next turnaround because, it's Oko. You kill the Oko. But it's kind of fun.
As someone who plays a Showcase Oko in his Uro deck, yes, that is exactly what happens. I pulled that Oko. I was so excited. I was playing it in Modern. I was playing it in anything I could, and then it got banned. Such sad times, but definitely necessary times.
Yeah, no, but I would say those are the things that I would do to improve this deck if I wanted to increase the win rate. Yep. Until then, I'm just going to wait for more adventure cards because you better believe Riku's going to get a facelift once we get some more adventures. Probably I might even take out the Peregrine Drake combo and just put in all adventures if we get enough adventure support to really have an adventure win con.
Yeah, that's the hope, right? Like you hope that when you build decks like this, you don't have to like come up with some other win con. Like you made the deck about adventures. You want to win with adventures, but right now, it's not exactly a feasible goal because there's only, like you said, like 15 adventure cards or something like that. So it's a little bit harder. So moving on from our very masterful reflection, I've had a new idea for a segment, and I wrote in the notes a little bit behind the scenes here. In the middle of this recording, this popped into my head, and I wrote.
I have no idea what's going on. I'm just here for the ride.
I wrote in the notes, new segment idea. Trust me, I got this. LOL.
I'm trusting you.
So I actually was inspired by the reflection section of this specific series of podcasts with the Teacher's Pet Decks. And I thought a really good way that we can kind of get all of y'all involved is with a new segment that I'm going to call Questions for the Class. And we're not going to be able to give you any answers for it. But I think we'd like to hear some feedback from you, and we'd like to hear just some questions that you might have. If you've seen episodes of The Command Zone where they take the viewer questions and then they make a whole episode out of it, it's like that. But we're going to do a few questions every episode. So right now it's just us sourcing your questions. You'll hear this exact same thing on either the previous episode or the next episode once we decide which order these are coming out in. And then hopefully we'll get some of your questions. So there's going to be 2 great ways that you can leave us your questions. Number 1, comment on our YouTube video, right? Our YouTube channel, and this is where we can start to plug our socials at the same time.
Yeah.
Our YouTube channel is MTG Educators Network. You can put the comments under the video under this episode there. Or on Twitter, you can tweet us at MTG Ed Network with the hashtag questions for the class. All right, and we'll put that on screen right now. Hashtag questions for the class. It's not the number 4, FOR, questions for the class.
Yeah,
and we're
teachers. We can spell out the word for.
So we'll take maybe 2, 3, 4 questions. We'll see if they can match up with the topic. But I'd like to. It'll be good because we can answer questions about certain things that maybe don't even have to do with it, and that we wouldn't be able to dedicate a whole episode to. So like maybe someone will leave a question. What's your favorite lesson you've ever taught? And we can just briefly talk about that. It'll be a fun way to get y'all involved. You can leave your name. We'll give you a nice little shout out. Just so we can talk to our listeners, because we really do appreciate all the support that we have been getting. We know that we're a small podcast. We'd like to be a bigger podcast, obviously, and grow the network and get all of our educators that play Magic involved. And I think this is a really cool way that we could do that.
Of course, I'd like to add one way, if you don't mind, as well, because we also have a Discord server, which we're working on revamping, getting some stuff in there, getting some ways, maybe even some community events going on in this virtual age, some virtual hangouts. I'll add a channel after this episode where we can actually have that. What were we calling it again? Questions from the class?
Questions for the class.
There you go. For the class. Got it. I'll add a channel in there. So make sure you check out our Discord as well. We pretty much have categories for all kinds of teachers, so you can find like-minded individuals who also enjoy the game that we love while we teach. So check out the Discord, another place where you can put those questions.
Yeah, thanks to our editor, too. We've mentioned him a couple of times. Sean, otherwise known as Busted Sleeves, absolute monster on the computer, getting all this edited out and out for us. And be sure to share this podcast with any and all of your Magic playing educators and school personnel, as well as anybody that plays Magic. We know we talk about education sometimes, but you don't have to listen to every episode if you don't want to. So if you just want to hear about our Magic stuff, that's great. If you want to hear our educator stuff, that's great. If you want to hear both, that's even better. We just want to grow our network as much as possible and make sure that everyone knows that, you're not the only teacher out there that plays Magic. So please share us around.
Of course, of course. So thank y'all for listening. Thank y'all for hearing about this deck. If y'all ever want to get some games in, just hit me up. Y'all know the socials. We got our own socials as well. You can find me at casual_Jake_ on Twitter, Instagram, even on the Twitch right there. I do Twitch stream every once in a while, do EMTG Arena as well as Commander Gameplay. And Taito, where can they find you?
They can find me at Taito, TYTO, Parliament, PARLIAMENT on Twitter and Twitch. I do not stream enough yet. It can never find the time because I'm too busy just playing games on my own. But I do want to do it, and eventually I will do it. So that is where you can find me.
You mean as a teacher, you just don't have an abundance of free time?
Nope, I do not. Contrary to public belief, no, I do not.
Right, exactly. Well, we hope everyone is staying safe. Again, I might date a little bit, but I hope everyone's staying warm. We're seeing some cold weather out there, so everyone be good. And until next time, I'm Casual Jake.
And I'm Taito.
And we want you to remember that teachers make magic. Bye, y'all.